I am so glad you convinced me that the family car should be the Defender 110. It is so beautiful inside, it's so comfortable, and it just feels indestructible.
Yes, it really is. I've been waiting a long time for the new model to come out. The Defender 110, I'm telling you, it's my favorite car of all times. It's my third one. You know, I have stories of going off road. The guy managed the group. He was like, "What are you doing in this beautiful car?" I'm like, "I'm going off road." He's like, "Are you sure? Because you can use one of ours." And then they look like Mad Max cars. I'm like, "No, no, 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 we're going to do this." And he was shocked.
Wow. Well, it's great because the Defender has been reimagined for 21st century adventure, and its unparalleled off-road ability as well as its robust interior are invaluable whether you're headed towards uncharted territory or just a weekend of exploration. The Defender 110 tackles challenging surroundings with absolute confidence. The SUV conveys strength outside and in, featuring peerless technology like an intuitive driver display and an award-winning infotainment system. That's my favorite part, to keep you connected no matter where the journey takes you. Adventure is unique to everyone, and so is the Defender. Choose from the two-door Defender 90, the four-door Defender 110, or the larger Defender 130 with the ability to seat up to 8 passengers. You'll find uncompromising performance in all three. So pack up and go even further with the Defender 110. Learn more at LandRoverUSA.com/Defender.
These days, we're all investors, trying to be smart with our money despite our worst impulses. But at iShares, we believe that deep down inside of every investor is a better investor. One that's just waiting to be let out. Explore iShares ETFs and insights and let your best investor out. Visit iShares.com for more information.
This isn't your average business podcast, and he's not your average host. This is the James Altucher Show. Today on the James Altucher Show.
We have the technology right now to grow younger. I talk about this with Sergey Young, the author of The Science and Technology of Growing Young. We talk about everything from good habits for anti-aging, the technologies that exist now, to the technologies that are going to exist in just 5 to 10 years. If you're born right now, it's very likely that you'll live to be at least 200, according to Sergey. And he explains why. He explains all the latest research. He explains what you could do right now, even if you're not born right now. If you're 50, 60, I'm 53, I want to live to 200. I hope I don't get bored. So again, his book is The Science and Technology of Growing Young, and he gives practical advice, dividing into 2 parts. The first part is, what is all the technology? Where are we heading? Second part is where he starts to give me real practical advice and what specific technologies he's waiting for that he's confident are going to help him grow younger. So enjoy. Here's Sergey Young with The Science and Technology of Growing Young. Whether it's anti-aging, anti-stress, career success, case in point, not everybody is a good-looking person, but you need to kind of present your best self.
To shine a little bit.
Yeah. What's on the library of someone who wants to live 200 years old? So I'm seeing about 30 or 40 books in the background here. I'm sure you have more, but what are some of these books? So you have the Eat to Beat Disease.
Yeah, okay. So William Lee and Eat to Beat Disease. It's Ray Kurzweil called Fantastic Voyage. And
Fantastic Voyage. I don't think I know that one actually by Ray.
Really?
And you're on the X Prize committee, which he's involved in, right?
Yeah, exactly. And what else? Jamie Metzel and Hakeem Darwin.
Oh yeah, Jamie's been on the podcast a bunch of times. Very good guy.
Okay, cool.
I have to assume you have David Sinclair's book.
Yeah, obviously,
on,
David
lifespan.
Sinclair, a very good friend, and
He's on the podcast a bunch of times.
oh yeah, I'm pretty sure that. Yeah, it's there's Plant Paradox by Stephen Gundry. So that's
Oh yeah, Steven's been on a bunch of times with that book and the recipe book.
Have you had Scott Galloway?
Of course, Scott Galloway's a regular.
Okay, I love it. I mean, obviously, I started with the 4, but then it's he has the other book called Happiness. What was the happiness? Okay, the happiness book. There's some other word there, which I think is.
Oh, and I see you have Factfulness by Han Rosling, who has
Yeah,
not been on because he's
it
sadly
is,
passed
yeah.
away.
I have Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. This is actually the book
Okay.
which changed my approach to sleep, like my view of this sleeping overall in terms of the impact on our health and longevity as well. Latest Dave Asprey book.
Oh yeah, I have that book. Dave has of course been a regular.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of fasting. I fast 36 hours a week. I'm actually today's my fasting day, so it's Monday evening to Wednesday morning. What else? I'm a big fan of Jared Diamond.
Yeah, and I see Guns, Germs, and Steels in the background, and you're holding up Collapse.
Yeah, my whole journey with Jared Diamond started obviously with this book, but then other books are just incredible, and specifically like rapamycin started with one of the Pacific Ocean islands, and that's one of our longevity drug candidates, right? So it's very interesting interrelation with what he says. It's Jonathan Haidt, Happiness Hypothesis.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, amazing. I kind of like this book. What else? James Clear, Atomic Habits.
Yeah, good guy, friend of mine.
Of course. I mean, you know, like half of the planet anyway, so you have a very, and I think it's Andrew Scott. The new.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, because he's the author of the 100-Year Life book. He's British professor, I think, in London School of Economics. But so I'm actually very jealous about what you do and your role, because my book journey was 3 years journey, and I miss that because in the process of writing, I had so many interesting conversations like Martin Rothblatt, David Sinclair, George Church, Bob Langer, the founder of Moderna, even Peter Jackson. About the future of human avatars and like ethics of longevity and us living much longer. I mean, it's beautiful. I'm already dreaming about my second book.
Oh, what do you think you'll say? You should write fiction next, because you bring up in your book, and I don't want to get too much into the ethics of longevity because I don't think it's interesting.
Yeah.
But you bring up this concept of, will there be, and Yuval Harari brings this up also in Homo Deus, but, you bring up the possibility that there might be some people who are, because of wealth or other means, get to live longer and other people don't. Well, that divides society into two strata.
Yeah.
I had this conversation with Yuval Harari where technology, as you know, moves so fast. Like, look at the cheapness now of the sequencing of the human genome, that I don't think there's enough time for two classes to be created. That technology will move forward so fast that it doesn't matter how much money. It's like the human genome now. 20 years ago cost $1 million to sequence. Now it costs less than $50.
It was actually like $3 billion. Right now, like for $200, you can do. You kind of cool with that. I agree with that.
But
yeah, sorry, no, James, go on.
I just want to add, Roger Zelazny, a science fiction writer from my youth, has a book like this where a bunch of human-like beings figure out immortality and become gods over the other humans that they suppress.
Yeah.
And then one rebels and on and on. But I don't think it's your whole stuff on the ethics of immortality interests me zero, because it's clear we all want to live longer and have a higher quality of life. And anyone who is a philosopher about this is just full of shit. But I want to introduce you, though, as, you're Sergey Young, founder of the Longevity Vision Fund, which I want to talk about a little bit.
Yeah.
The book's called The Science and Technology of Growing Young, an insider's guide to the breakthroughs that will dramatically extend our lifespan and what you can do right now. Forward by Peter Diamandis, who's an old friend, has been on this podcast many times, and Ray Kurzweil, who is author of the book, famous book, The Singularity is Near. And every few months, I have someone on, and this goes back to 2014. I had Dan Buettner on with the Blue Zones, and then more recently, David Sinclair with his book Lifespan. But I'm always interested in longevity and the latest research, and your book is great. It covers so many different issues, and I'm really glad you're on. Thank you for coming on. It's a good book, and I'm glad I can ask you all the questions so that I selfishly, even if we have 0 listeners, I selfishly will want to live longer.
I'm very excited.
Oh, good. So just to start it off, how long do you think someone born today will be able to live? And more importantly, how long will I be able to live?
Okay, how old are you, James?
53.
Okay, I'm 49, so we kind of cool. We in,
You're a young baby.
yeah. So remember, I mean, we're living in pretty unique intersection of breakthroughs in science and technology, and very unique point of evolution. I think first time in our history, in the next 10 to 20 years, we will have the science and technology to break this sound barrier of 122 years. This is the maximum lifespan that we have for the record on Earth, thanks to this beautiful French woman who died in the age of 122, 20 years ago.
And I love the story where somebody offered to buy her house in the form of an annuity,
Yeah.
where he would pay her, a certain amount per month until she dies, and then she outlived him.
Exactly. And then his family was paying the same thing until she died. She actually dropped smoking at the age of 117.
So okay, and we'll segue and break off in different parts.
So well,
Like,
I just want to
don't
come
so-
back to your question, right? Because we
Yes.
did discuss we're going to be selfish and egoistic today a little bit, right? Just trying to serve
Yes.
ourselves and humanity in the same time. So for you and me, I think we will be able to break the sound barrier. So it's going to be obviously above 122 years. I would actually think it's going to be anywhere between 130 and 150 years. For someone who is born today, 200 years is not even a number. Because what we will achieve in a few decades from now, that like every 5 to 10 years, you will need to make a choice. Whether you're extending your healthy and happy life by another decade or so. It's going to be like a series of life extension decisions that we would need to do in the future. I'm very optimistic about our ability to break this sound barrier. Having said that, I really want to be upfront and sincere about this whole thing. Right now, it's a promise that at least you and I, we will not be able to confirm for the next, 70 years. So in a way, like whatever the number I'll promise you today, it's going to be another 50 or 70 years until we actually, we'll be 100 or 120 years old and we'll be able to check. So in a way, it's an easy thing for me to promise. It's we just need to live longer, but like world in 50 years from now going to be completely different.
Well, I'm holding you to it, Sergey. If I die before the age of 100, I'm coming after you. So
okay, great. I love it. I love to be accountable.
From what I understand from your book and other books I've read and people I've spoken to, you could almost divide this into layers. Like there's the habits we could change now that will make us live longer.
Yeah.
And you say this in your book. First rule of longevity, don't die.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are a lot of things you can do to alleviate the risk of heart disease, strokes, cancers, like you say, eliminate smoking, sleep better, eat better, don't drink alcohol, and so on. And then the next layer might be, like, as David Sinclair puts it, treating aging as an illness. So there's things like NMN and rapamycin that you just mentioned, pills that we could take that maybe now will help us. And then furthermore, there's potential technologies like the Yamanaka factors or stem cells. And then, of course, there's the science fiction aspect, which is of telepresence and avatars. And, maybe we could put our consciousness in another mortal shell and keep on doing that. And also with genomics, we can reverse any genetically related disease. And as George Church mentions, every disease is a genetically related disease.
Yeah.
So that gives us a good chance. So let's start off. I want to skip the habits part because everybody pretty much has a good sense
I mean,
of...
it's really obvious. Yeah, people feel very bored when I tell them that they need to eat healthy and do their annual checkup.
Yeah, I haven't done the second part of that in 30 years, but I should do it. But I do want to mention about the eating is that you find that a lot of foods do create inflammation. It's obviously better to eat clean organic food than candy all the time. So this, and you mentioned earlier, you fast 36 hours every week. I do intermittent fasting. I try not to eat,
Great.
just like Stephen Gundry, I try not to eat until like between 5 and 7 p.m. and, eat little and eat early. But you don't want to restrict calories too much or you have an unpleasant life. But I do believe that if some foods have poison in them, even small amounts, the less you eat of poison, the better you are, and the less taxing it is on your intestines and so on to digest too much food and so on. But let's go on, and I'll let you speak now. The first thing I want to ask is, what's the story with NMN, or NAD plus related pills and, resveratrol, the stuff that David Sinclair talks about?
Okay, so basically what's going to happen is in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to have completely different kind of form of drugs. And right now, if you go to pharmacy and you ask for pills against aging, they will think you're crazy, or they will send you to cosmetic section or supplements. So what we have right now in development, we have a number of longevity drug candidates. And the beauty of them, they actually working to find aging rather than particular disease. So that's going to be a revolution.
So this is the concept of viewing aging directly as an illness as opposed to trying to slow down heart attacks and strokes and cancer. All of these are byproducts of aging as opposed to aging being byproducts of those.
Exactly. So like every drug of this kind going to be super efficient. So it's going to be at least 5 to 10 times more efficient in terms of helping you to live healthier, longer, and even happier life. So that's actually very important to understand. Why is that happening? And as always in medicine, part of the inventions happening just simply by coincidence. So that was the case with metformin. Metformin is anti-diabetic drug. Is a very old drug. It's 50 or 60 years old, right? It's generic now. In fact, if you speak to Neil Barzilai, the man behind the TAME trial, this huge multi-thousand people trial that we're starting in the US to test whether metformin is a longevity drug. It's an anecdote. For his trial, metformin is cheaper than placebo. Can you imagine that? So this is how cheap this thing can be.
And so just to be clear, metformin is a prescription drug for diabetes. And do you find that a lot of anti-diabetes drugs tend to be related to anti-aging?
So what we've seen, and this is how it works with the diet intervention, and whatever can lower your level of glucose in the blood tend to work much better in terms of your life extension. So this is not like the only candidate or it's not the only substance that can extend your life, just simply helping you to regulate your glucose cycle. So that's pretty important. And like, even if you speak to the most skeptical guys, like, I don't know, Aubrey de Grey, even he agrees that caloric restriction and managing your glucose level through metformin or through diet restriction is like a simple way to add 2, 3, or even 5 happy and healthy years to your life. So that's very important.
And let me ask this. So metformin's prescription, but from what I've been told, I'm not a doctor, obviously. From what I've been told, and a drug I'm taking, not a drug, but a pill, is berberine, which has a very similar effect as metformin, but it's not a prescription drug.
Yeah, you can take. Exactly. So what people ask me, like, whether I should take metformin or not. What I'm telling them, first of all, I'm not a doctor, right? So they should see their own doctor and discuss that. My general rule, if you're above 60, it probably makes sense to push and take metformin now. If you're below that, there's a number of lifestyle interventions you can do now, and wait for the outcome of the TAME trial, which is going to be available to us in 5 years from now, to see if you should take this longevity pill.
And how are they testing for longevity with metformin?
So basically, what is happening is, well, they have two groups: the one with who taking metformin, the one who's taking placebo. People don't know what they taken, and different different doses of metformin. So that's one. They're looking at two things. One is very old, and one is very new. The very old thing is like, what are the mortality rates in these groups? Like, how many people died by the end of the study or in the course of the study, and like compare this this thing. And again, I'm telling that this is very old thing because this is how studies. This is how we thought about human trials through the whole evolution of our healthcare. So you just take a group of very old people and you sit and wait until some of them die. This is a very long feedback loop. So, and this is very old thing. I think what we've created in the last 5 to 7 years, we've created biological clocks. So right now, you can take your blood test, look at number of indicators, like probably the maximum one is like 44, and then you create your biological age index. So whatever is your passport age, your body age can be different. And so they're going to measure number of indicators. They're going to measure biological clocks of participants in all groups and compare, is there any life extension or age reversal effect that metformin has on particular group. So that's actually very important, because with biological clocks, you can measure your age and how old or young your body and mind is almost every day or every month. So your feedback loop for a lot of experiments in healthcare and longevity is right now completely different and very short, which is great.
So Sergey, a couple of questions about that. One is, some of that must be genetic. Like, are there people who genetically have a biological age because that is much lower than their actual age because their parents and grandparents and great-grandparents were also very good at that?
Of course. So, and this is actually why I'm always bringing the fact that, I forgot what's the name of this wonderful French woman, that she was smoking until the age of 117. So right now, if we look at centenarians, this are the people who live to 100 years and above, it's a wrong model for longevity because they've been really lucky in genetic lottery. I mean, obviously they had their environment right, their food right? They're living in mountains or in islands. They have to walk and they have to work physically. So they're just not sitting on a chair all the time. But what is happening right now, everyone who lives really longer has this certain component of being lucky in genetic lottery. And this is exactly what we want to fix. So if you look at the studies, depending on the study, 30 or 40% of our ability to live longer is predefined by our genes. You can be lucky or you can be unlucky. I mean, you can get rare genetic disease. And why we say this disease is rare, they're not that rare at all. 400 million people on Earth suffer from we call rare disease. They are not only of genetic nature, but that's a lot as well. So, and what has happened in the last 10 years, we've developed our understanding of longevity genes. So right now we know almost all 3,000 genes in our DNA, which are responsible for our ability to live longer in a healthy and again in happy state. So as soon as we have an opportunity and we have the technology and science to change these genes, replace them, or just change an expression of them, or use alternative tools for our DNA to express it in a way which supports us living longer in a healthier state, that's going to be great. So in 10 or 20 years' time, we'll have this ability to amend our DNA. And my belief that what will prevent us from using that is not going to be science, it's not going to be technology, it's going to be public perception, it's going to be regulation and the ethical things.
Yeah, so I want to talk about genetics in a little bit. Because I think that's going to be, I feel like we're near a tipping point there. And by tipping point, I mean who knows, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, but close enough in terms of the age of civilization. But so we've mentioned metformin. What do you think about these NAD plus drugs like NMN or NR or whatever?
Okay, so what is happening? There's like whatever these substances we see in pharmacies, it's two very distinctive and completely different categories that we see. So one is drug, right, or prescription drugs. They've been developed in the course of at least 12 years with a cost of, on average, 2.6 billions. They went through 3 phases of different trials, and they've been approved by FDA. Okay? So that's very important. And this is where you can find reliable solution with the zero or minimal side effects. So this is where my hope is. I'm really looking for drug against aging, not necessarily for supplement against aging, right? So that's my response, number one. That's why I'm more optimistic about rapamycin, metformin in the midterm. In 3, 5, 7 years from now, we're gonna have it, right? And it's completely different safety protocol and safety regime, if you want, for the long-term consumption of this. So then you have the other extreme, is supplements. Well, the problem with supplements, they're not regulated. So in a way, you just self-report that it's kind of safe and it can produce certain results, but it's not necessarily confirmed by regulator, by FDA, who's responsible for your safety. So that's a tricky thing. So like my only option to build a judgment for NMN or any like NAD plus booster that we have now on the market is just, ask some people and see if they get any results. So when people started to take NMN, and I'm obviously every day I'm meeting someone who's just crazy about longevity. NMN is the current hype and current love. I also have it here. I can show it to you. Unfortunately, not to the audience, right? It's Alive by Nature.
Which is the brand that David Sinclair recommends.
So, and it's sublingual, so you just put it in your mouth. I think it's a more natural and more efficient way to consume an NMN. So I'm taking this. So I spoke to Eric Verdin, the head of Buck Institute of Aging Research, David Sinclair, Peter Diamandis, and consistent feedback that I'm having. Guys, when we start to take it, our performance, level of energy change in the course of 30 to 60 days. So I tend to believe in that. So that's thought number one. And thought number two, the beauty of supplements, I'm a big believer in supplements, even with all the caution and risks that I just explained, that it's not regulated, you need to control the quality, no one knows if they work or not. The beauty of supplements is because of placebo effect. So if you actually believe it works for you for 30 to 40%. In fact, in some of the medical trials for drugs, the biggest competition the drug received was from placebo group, because people believed that it works and it's actually made a lot of changes to their body and the health of it. So in a way, I'm cool with 30 to 40% effect. So I'm taking somewhere around 20 supplements every day. Again, and even if this is defined by placebo effect, I'm typical placebo guy. My motto is to live 200 years in 25 years old body. And when I started to reiterate it every morning and every evening, I actually became younger, full of energy. And every morning when I wake up, I have 3/4 of my life ahead of me.
What do you mean? You say that to yourself, or?
Well, you just do manifestation, or you just have a thought I'm gonna live 200 years in the body of 25 years old man. But I'm adding healthy and happy, because we need to be careful with what we're asking from universe. So I'm it should be 200 healthy and happy years, not just statistically average years.
Oh my gosh, I love these clothes. Mizzen and Main, that's Mizzen and Main. It really is the most comfortable work clothes. Travel clothes. I I had to travel this whole week. I'm traveling for a week and a half, and I just took Mizzen and Main clothes with me. Close out 2023 in style with comfortable, breathable, packable, and machine washable pieces from Mizzen and Main. As you wrap up your year-end goals, enjoy a Mizzen and Main dress shirt that you can wear confidently. I like that they've very just nice, solid colors. I don't really like to get all fancy in patterns and everything, although they do have some pattern shirts, but very comfortable clothes, stretchable pants. It's just super comfortable, but they look professional and you can wear them casually or professionally. I like some of their flannel shirts or untuck shirts. I love untuck. I never tuck in. So again, whether you're shopping for a special someone or giving yourself the gift you really want, I just buy myself gifts. Mizzen and Main is the perfect gift for any guy who works, travels, and or cares about looking and feeling great. As you could tell by my many photos across the internet, I care about looking fantastic. I'm practically a model. And let's be honest, every guy loves to look great. So again, shop now at mizzenandmain.com and save 20% when you spend $130 or more using promo code James. That's promo code James at Mizzen and Main, Mizzen and Main.com. You know what I love about fantasy sports is that even though I'm not going to be a great basketball player or a baseball player or a football player or whatever, I feel like I get to participate and make decisions and use my knowledge of these different leagues or these different sports to compete. So it's like I can pick my team or I can pick my favorite players and I could use my knowledge to make predictions and maybe even make money. So with the basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League on Prize Picks. This is a league created specifically for combo projections that include two or more players from different sports or leagues. Want to play alongside some of Prize Picks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz, who's also been a guest on this podcast, and I've been a guest on his? You can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries for some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community each week. Look, Prize Picks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. What? So I love playing it. I love anywhere where I can use analytical ability with my interests to demonstrate some skill and maybe make some money. And I like the game-like aspect. I do wish they had chess as a category on prizepicks.com, but I'll settle for what they've got. Maybe I should make my own fantasy chess league. But in any case, I love Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/James. Use code James for a first deposit match up to $100. That's the easiest $100 you're ever going to make. So that's prizepicks.com/James and use code James. Daily fantasy sports made easy. The future of learning is definitely online. Like, it's such BS that you have to spend $200,000 or take $200,000 in loans and go to some fancy school when it's useless. It doesn't guarantee you a job. Most employers, including me, do not care about degrees or grades or anything like that. We want to care that you love what you're doing, that you know what you're doing, in some cases that you have experience or that you're willing to learn. But people in general love learning and are curious. Like, the key to success is curiosity. And I think masterclass.com is the perfect model for online learning. I'm really happy they're sponsoring this episode. If you're going to give a gift, give the gift of learning. Masterclass makes a meaningful gift this season for you and anyone on your list, because both of you can learn from the best to become your best, from leadership to effective communication to cooking. Let me tell you some of the classes I've taken. I've taken comedy from Steve Martin. I mean, can you believe I can take a class from Steve Martin on comedy, or Judd Apatow, my favorite comedy director? I could take an actual class from him on writing, Wolfgang Puck on cooking, Dan Brown on writing, or Judy Bloom, who's been on this podcast, on writing. By the way, Wolfgang Puck also has been on this podcast. It's such a pleasure. I try to take classes all the time from masterclass.com. And whether you're watching Masterclass on TV or listening in audio mode in the app or on their site, the quality speaks for itself. It's like these Masterclass instructors are your own personal mentors that are going to help you reach the next level. How much would it cost to take one-on-one classes on comedy from Steve Martin or on chess from Gary Kasparov? You just wouldn't be able to do it. But it would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. With a Masterclass annual membership, it's $10 a month. Memberships start at $120 a year for unlimited access to one-on-one classes with all 180 plus Masterclass instructors. So it's not just $120 for one instructor. You get all 180 plus Masterclass instructors. Boost your confidence and find practical takeaways you can apply to your life and at work. And if you own a business or are a team leader, use Masterclass to empower and create future-ready employees and leaders. That's the real education in today's world. So this holiday season, you can give one annual membership and get one free at masterclass.com/JAS. JAS, of course, stands for the James Altucher Show. So right now you can get two memberships for the price of one at masterclass.com/JAS. Masterclass.com/JAS. Offer terms apply. This is related to kind of the old school thinking, but what's the relationship between stress and longevity? I know stress creates inflammation in the cells, which creates, I don't know, all the things you listed as causes of aging, later on in the book. How much do you focus on reducing stress?
Very much so. So when we move to our, like what I can do now, boring horizon, I have 5 buckets there. So first is checkup, and the last number 1 called peace of mind. And it's funny that you're saying that, James. Then every time when we start to think about our health, our default mode, we're thinking about our physical health. So we often neglect the idea and the priority of supporting our mental health, right? And releasing stress. So that's very important. What is happening is the following. We all, living in today's world, have extremely high cortisol level. And cortisol is stress hormone level. And that's okay. And it was designed to be that way by Mother Nature, but only for the very small period of time. Like we see something scary in the forest, we need to run. But then just few minutes, or 30 minutes after this response, the level of cortisol should go down. And this is your healthy condition, like predetermined by Mother Nature and evolution. What is happening now? We have these constant shocks. We have this constantly negative news, right, from the media. We have the stress at work. We have the stress on the streets, in the family. So the problem of humanity today, we have extremely high, consistently high level of cortisol in our blood. And this is really bad because it takes out the space from the other very important hormones, like the one who make us men and women, and it actually prevents you from recovery during sleep, and it's actually like pretty unhealthy. So statistically, with very high level of cholesterol, you're going to be living anywhere between 3 to 7 years shorter than the average.
And I feel like it's sort of like you said earlier. We used to see a lion and our cortisol would spike up.
Yeah.
We'd run
Yeah.
and then the cortisol would come down. But now we're just staring in front of the computer. So we're not running and we have this constant simmering, more elevated cortisol level. Like it's almost like you're seeing the lion on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, but you don't run and it just stays there all day. Like
Exactly.
I almost think like having no opinions is the best way to reduce stress.
Yeah. So look, I took out all my chances to see the news, to hear the news. Yeah, I'm in the books, and sometimes I can go to Netflix and see something that I really picked up. But otherwise, I'm like books. Books is like 1, 3, 5 years horizon. They're not immediate. They don't stress me. I have enough stress at family, at my longevity vision fund work. I don't need more sources of that. I have a funny number for you. Like before invention of smartphones, our attention span for humans was 15 seconds. So the fish in the bowl had 9 seconds attention span. So after
What does that mean? What does it mean, attention span in this context?
Attention span, like it's just the amount of time you can focus on one thing. So fish in the bowl, every 9 seconds, it switched the attention from plant to the other fish, etc. Yeah. So like for humans, it was 15 seconds. Right now, we have less attention span than fish in the bowl. It's 8 seconds now. So every 8 seconds, our mind is switching from one thing or another to the message, from message you receive to another conversation, to another external shock or piece of news or emails of someone passing by. And this is ridiculous. If we're in the business of creating long-term achievement, creating long-term self-realization or being happy, what you can do with just by switching your attention and your focus every 8 seconds from one thing to another.
Let me ask, I can watch TV for a half hour, an hour, and my attention won't switch?
Yes, of course, but I'm not sure. I've seen a lot of people who are watching something without actually looking at their iPhone or whatever the phone they have. Looking at Messenger.
I'm going to tell my wife this because she constantly, I always say, you've got to respect the story. You can't look away or you'll miss something in the story. So I know I have a very good attention span, at least for things I love and enjoy. And maybe that's kind of the key there, is find more things to love so that your attention span doesn't go down. But now I want to start to veer into the genomics. One of the most hopeful things I read in both your book and David Sinclair's book for the short term is Yamanaka factors.
Yeah.
Maybe you can explain that and where we are with that. Like, that seems incredible.
Yeah. So basically there's a number of modifications you can do with particular genes. These are particular genes that if you change the expression of this, so if you reprogram how they express themselves and you involve them, you actually can reverse aging processes in your body. This is how it works. And it's been amazing because with this, I think David Sinclair has been able to reverse blindness, or you can reverse a lot of aging processes. So far we've done it in mice and some other animals. So if you apply this technology and you change the expression of this particular longevity genes, it's just amazing. And you do experiments in mice. In some of the cases, it turns gray hair to normal back again. And people are big fans of judging aging in the form of our external appearance. So that's why I'm always using this as an example. So it is an opportunity. It's a very promising discovery that we all are using in our age reversal experiment. So it's called epigenetic reprogramming. And it's obviously the future. It's more and more experiments right now happening in the labs. So I do think in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to have breakthroughs in terms of using this Yamanaka factors to reverse aging. But again, it comes down to regulator and people ethics. People hate the idea of us stopping aging. People hate the idea that we can actually redefine ourselves on DNA level, because people always we live in a society where inequality gap is widening all the time. So people always looking at the pieces of science or development of technology as a threat, as just another opportunity to broaden this inequality gap rather than to close it. And that's actually my belief. So the positive thing about longevity, it can be one of the unifying themes for countries, for societies. And I actually agree with your earlier point when you say that because of democratization of technology all the time with enormous speed, what I like about companies that we invested in through Longevity Vision Fund, they all bring down the cost of the healthcare by 10 to 20, not percent, but times. So whether we invest in early cancer diagnostic, organ regeneration, gene editing and gene therapy, it's bringing down the cost of particular healthcare intervention with particular outcome by a factor of 10 to 20. Sometimes it's even 50. So that's very exciting.
Let me ask this, and I partially know the answer. Ethics and regulation aside, why can't I take Yamanaka factors or do that and test on myself and try it out and see what happens? Now, the flip side of that is, from what I understand in the latest research, we don't really know the effects of changing one gene has on other genes. It's not like these are single gene mutations that cause diseases. They're interacting with maybe thousands of other genes. And so some of these experiments on Yamanaka factors has caused cancer in mice and so on. But what if I just want to experiment on myself? Shouldn't I have that right to do that?
Yeah, I mean, you will need to find a lab and scientists to help you with that, which probably going to be extremely difficult to impossible right now.
Yeah.
So that's one. I think, James, look, we all overestimating the importance of us in the history of evolution. I can see the temptation and desire to experiment with your own body and mind. But look, just wait for another 5, 10, and 15 years. Stay on longevity bridge. Do this boring stuff, okay? And it's going to be delivered to you in a much more affordable, less risky, and safer way.
The one thing I question, so when you start getting into the genes on the DNA, there are thousands and thousands, and some diseases like notably one that's always used as a reference is Tay-Sachs disease. They're what's called single diseases that involve single gene mutations. So if we fix that one gene, you solve that hereditary disease.
Yeah.
But other factors in the body, like let's say height or intelligence or other aspects of longevity, for instance, reduction of heart disease, that could be multiple genes, and the mathematical complexity of finding one gene versus many is exponentially large. It's like, it's like counting all the grains of sand on the planet versus counting, up to 100. And so the complexity might be so much harder, and it's computationally exponential. So not even the fastest computers can help solve it. That's the only worry I have in terms of some of these genetic solutions.
Yeah, obviously, the bigger number of genes that you try to influence, the bigger the risk, right? Because you just need to cherry pick what exactly you want to influence. And what we've done in the last 10, 15 years, there's more and more new technologies developing, and which makes this whole gene editing and gene therapy space more available. I just wanted to go through this evolution. Like 20 years ago, it was literally like handful of people who were about to die, who were just ready for experiments that you just explained. What if I would like to just be a part of this experiment, right? Then last decade, we were working with so-called rare diseases. And again, I mean, if you combine all of them, it's 400 million people all around the world. But right now, with number of COVID vaccines, they all RNA-based vaccines, which is gene therapy. So today, like 1/3 or 2/3 of the world can actually enjoy the benefit of gene editing and gene therapy technologies. So this is how fast development goes. So I'm pretty hopeful and optimistic about our ability to influence enormously high combination of genes to achieve desired effect. And like 3,000 genes for longevity and to stop your aging process is not a lot. We just need to have a technology which can combine it and has minimal or negligent side effects.
Right, and I think the issue is that, again, like take Tay-Sachs disease, which is a single gene caused by a single gene mutation. You just have to. That's a switch on and off.
Yeah.
But like if you're trying to change some factor that involves multiple genes, it's hard out of tens of thousands of genes to figure out which combination creates the right effect. because, you're talking about, I don't know, thousands to the thousandth power of number of combinations to determine which set of genes have which effect. And that becomes computationally too difficult. It's
No, I
equivalent to
think
solving cryptography.
Yeah, James. Look, I think on in terms of the ability of us to draw on computational power, I'm not that concerned. And again, I just want to use the same example, right? Think about 3,000 genes which define the whole aging process in our body. This is not a lot. Are we ready to influence all of them through a particular technology? Obviously, no. But like 20 years ago, it cost us, $3 billion and 6 years to sequence a human genome, one. These days, I mean, I understand this is, genome of the COVID, not of the human being. Like early 2020, it took just a couple of days to people in US, China, UK, Russia, Australia to sequence genome of COVID and start developing vaccine. So like if COVID happened like 50 or 100 years ago, it would be completely different tragic event in the history of evolution, but not today. I mean, it's still pretty sad and it's been dramatic times for us last year and this year. But like in comparison to what could have been happen, it's just completely different. And it's all driven by computational power, science, and the beauty of artificial intelligence.
Right. Like you mentioned in the book, it took 55 years to develop a polio vaccine. And here it took less than a year for COVID.
Yeah, just a few months. Yeah. And it's all about testing capabilities and vaccine development. And we just don't know details, but there's a number of big pharma companies and using artificial intelligence as enabler, working on the drugs against COVID. So it might not be a vaccine, it might be a drug. So this will come probably late this year, next year as well.
And the Yamanaka factors, which, affect, different genes and so on. This right now seems to be one of the most hopeful experiments, but I want to go one step further, which you also talk about in the book, which is what about, a lot of the problems with aging is our cells get older, maybe they become zombie cells, creating more inflammation, meaning they die, but they don't get flushed out of the system.
Yeah.
And you mentioned a bunch of cellular things that can happen that are theories of related to aging. What about, and you mentioned this in the book, what about the idea of returning cells to their basically their baby state? So like using stem cells and using epigenetics to getting new stem cells in your body, in your aging body, returning them to their pluripotent state, their baby state, and then using epigenetics to kind of program them, tell them what to do. Where are we with that? Because that obviously reverses the clock pretty heavily and theoretically would work when you think about it.
Yeah, look, I mean, this is what Yamanaka factors and some other technologies would do. And it's just a huge number of things that you can do on a cellular level, right? So with this in mind, it's I think it's just another 5 to 10 years when we will be able to reprogram our cells. And look at what is happening like in the field of immuno-oncology right now. T cells, like cells responsible for how your immune system works, taken from your body or particular donor body, reprogrammed, and they just put back in the body of particular person who suffers from cancer. So you have an example of highly personalized solution which is already working. So immuno-oncology as a part of genetic and gene therapy field is already working. Right now it's very expensive. It's $100,000 in some of the cases, but like the cost of this is gonna democratize itself pretty soon. So it's not something from the science fiction book. Again, this is gonna be available for us for some of the applications in the next 5 to 10 years. And I think what is more promising here is our ability to regenerate thymus, this little organ which disappears or shrinks in size when we turn, well, somewhere around 20.
Wait, what's it called? I've never.
It's called thymus.
How do you spell it?
Thymus is Thymus, I think. Yeah.
I see. Right. They make the T cells.
And like it's responsible for when you are at the youngest stage of your life, your immune system is working like a hell. It's super efficient. Whatever happens with you, with few very sad exceptions, you're gonna recover. The problem with thymus gland is that after you reach anywhere between 18 and 23, 25 years, it starts to shrink. So your immune system starts to degrade. So it works less efficiently. And like one of the companies that we're investing in, it's called like Genesis, is helping us to restore the thymus. And actually they're using our own lymph nodes to regrow thymus inside our body. It sounds like sci-fi. And they actually, their first program is with liver. So they're using our lymph nodes to regrow the liver. And they started they just received FDA approval this year. And they started human trials this year already. So if you have dysfunction in liver, all they do, they take donor liver, split it in 50 to 70 pieces, use very simple laparoscopic operations inside your lymph node. And then in the course of 3 to 6 months, you have an ability to regrow your organ inside your own body in a very personalized way.
And so where are they in that? Like, have they seen any evidence that regrowing the thymus is or slowing down the involution of the thymus will help people live longer? Yeah,
so there's a number of studies behind it. And one, I think it's called TRIM, TRIIM, has been done, I think it was back in 2018. All they've done, in addition to all the interventions, which we think extend our lifespan and help with age reversal, they also supplied, I think it was 9-man study, so it's just very small, not really statistically representative study, but it was pioneering. What they've done, they included the growth hormone for thymus in the set of interventions that they've done in course of the year, and they've been able to reverse aging based on biomarkers in this particular group. So it's obviously they were not regrowing this, but they were using growth hormones to help thymus to regrow and reinstall and improve your immune system level.
Okay, don't forget to listen to the next episode, part 2 of this, where Sergey gives specific advice on how to grow younger.
Hey, Brad, you know how Nationwide is more than an insurance company?
Yeah, they're one of America's largest financial services companies.
We get that in a song like business, life, retirement.
Or Nationwide's there to protect.
I'm kind of the jingle guy.
Not sure I agree with that.
Well, I'm not sure I like your hat.
Well, that would never fit on you.
Products issued by Nationwide Life Insurance Company or Nationwide Life and Annuity Insurance Company. The general distributor for variable products is Nationwide Investment Services Corporation, member FINRA, Columbus, Ohio.